Shame tells us that we're flawed and unworthy of connection. We feel small and bad about ourselves and wish we could vanish. It often feels like a heavy backpack that some people carry all their lives. Hi, I'm Dr. Gbailey, and I create videos for people who want to heal their childhood trauma by feeling, connecting, and understanding the wisdom of their emotions. Shame can make us go three directions: people-pleasing, isolate ourselves, and get angry. Most people have experienced shame at some point in their lives, usually due to doing something they feel is foolish or wrong. They may feel humiliated sharing something vulnerable in front of others, or defeated over losing a sports match. But when these feelings become more frequent or intense, they can turn into toxic shame. That's when you feel like there's something wrong with you, you feel not good enough, or even if you don't believe you're lovable. You genuinely don't trust people and find it hard to believe that someone can like you the way you are. That leads to always trying to say the right thing, or not having boundaries, or perfectionism, because you fear of getting rejected if you truly show yourself the way you are. Shame can also lead to self-isolation and loneliness. It's so hard to reach out to others or make friends if you expect already that nobody will like you for who you are, or if you ask for help, or if you show yourself vulnerable. Other effects of shame are procrastination and other self-sabotaging behaviors. Some people cope with shame with shaming others, or getting their egos inflated to hide that painful belief that they don't have value. According to the shame researcher Brené Brown, shame is highly correlated with addiction, depression, aggression, bullying, and eating disorders. Shame usually develops during childhood. Childhood abuse or neglect and other traumatic experiences can cause lots of toxic shame and make us believe we are not good enough. Maybe your parents had their own shame, or they shamed you for showing emotions or other certain needs. That way you got the message that you're not worthy of their unconditional love and approval. And so, how to overcome shame and heal these painful coping mechanisms? Step 1 is explore your shame. As explained, shame is an emotion that arises from a desire to belong and to be loved. But it is also an overwhelming, painful feeling caused by self-judgment of our inadequacies or defectiveness or unworthiness, or the belief that we are not acceptable, or that we believe that we don't deserve to be loved, right? And we're not lovable the way we are. We know that shame can hide in many places. Many people aren't aware that shame is even present for them. Shame often underlies other difficult emotions such as anger, fear, and despair. Shame is your worst inner critic, analyzing your performance and all things. But to work with shame, to reduce its presence in our bodies and our lives, we need to bring it to the light. So observe yourself in your daily life. What do you do when you did a mistake? Do you take responsibility, or do you get angry and blame others? Blame is also often a consequence of shame. When you feel constantly attacked, criticized, when you constantly feel that others blame you and you get angry or you withdraw and isolate yourself, then you probably suffer from shame. Take a moment and think about something in our life then you are terrified of anyone knowing about you, or you're terrified to show somebody else, right? You can also observe yourself in the way you behave because you want to be liked. Journaling about these shameful moments can be incredibly helpful in acknowledging how much shame controls your life. If you want to heal from shame, then it's time to ask yourself painful questions, such as, Do I feel unconditionally lovable? Do I accept myself with all my weaknesses? Do I feel I belong? Can I let my guard down and still feel liked? How much responsibility do I take after a mistake? What do I feel about myself when I criticize others? Be honest to yourself and see what comes up when you just start being curious. How does that make you feel, right? I know self-knowledge is not always good news and can be incredibly terrifying and painful. Step 2, examine your beliefs about yourself. Once you have explored when and how shame comes up in your life, it's time to examine your inner dialogue. Have you actually ever asked yourself how you talk to yourself? If you become attuned to your inner dialogue, you expand your capacity for self-observation, and you may respond to your feelings of shame in a more constructive manner. For example, in moments when we make a mistake, when there is a conflict, or when you're dating someone, what do you actually say to yourself? Maybe you say something like, "How could you be liked? You're not interesting enough. You're too needy. You're too emotional. You're useless." See what it is that you say to yourself inside your head. When you feel these first pangs of shame, try to understand what's happening before you get locked into a painful loop of negative self-talk. Figure out what negative physical and emotional effects shame is having on you. For example, in your body, do you feel the shame? What kind of emotional reactions do you have? This might be a difficult thing to start with because the more often you pay attention to how shame comes up inside your head and in your body, the easier it gets. And so you can take a moment and breathe before you start acting on shame. Understand where the beliefs come from. Shame comes from a deep longing to be loved and accepted. It is often an internalized old voice from our childhood. Some of the main reasons we feel shame are childhood bullying, childhood emotional neglect, emotionally unavailable parents, being ashamed by our parents and constantly not feeling good enough. All these difficult childhood experiences can cause shame. Be curious and go back to your childhood. What did you miss in order to feel loved? Did you feel heard and seen? Did you feel it's okay to make mistakes? Listen to your inner child. What did you need from your caregivers in order to feel unconditionally accepted and good enough? Maybe you needed to be able to talk about something you did wrong without being punished. Maybe you needed to feel safe enough to talk about your sadness or fears. Try to be as curious as possible and write down what you missed and needed. Then ask yourself what you did in order to feel that your needs are seen and heard. Maybe you tried to please your parents, making sure you are perfect, or you tried to always be good at school. Whatever you did, bring it into awareness and then check in and see how much of these behaviors are still active in your life. The final step is self-compassion. Once you have understanding for how you feel ashamed about yourself, you feel the emotional response in your body, and you have a better understanding of where this comes from, it's time to replace shame with self-compassion. Self-compassion is the inner resource that can transform shame. Again, as Brené Brown says, the most dangerous stories we make up are the narratives that diminish our inherent worthiness. Like receiving empathy from another, practicing self-compassion has a similar effect on shame. The next time you find yourself feeling shame and have the urge to withdraw or lash out and blame another, treat yourself with self-compassion by doing this exercise. Recognize shame. When you hear the voice bringing up shame inside you, try to bring love to your shame. You can just acknowledge shame by saying, oh, there it is. It's shame coming up inside me. Bring awareness into how shame makes you feel. Try to be gentle to your experience. For example, you can ask yourself, what hurts the most right now? Maybe I feel lonely and unloved. Maybe I feel unwanted and not good enough. Stay with that experience without judgment. Then, investigate your needs with self-kindness. Underneath shame, there is an unmet need. Ask yourself, what do I need right now the most? What's my unmet need? See if you can meet your need with warmth and care. You might try putting your hand on your heart and feel the gentle touch of your care. Try offering yourself the following words. I'm sorry that I'm feeling this way. You can also remind yourself that you're still a good person, even when you feel inadequate or flawed, and that you don't need to be perfect to belong or to be loved. You might even practice the following self-compassion phrase. May I love and accept myself just as I am. Notice any shifts in how you feel as you hold this part of yourself with loving connection. And then you can also share it with others. Often we feel alone with shame. Remind yourself that we all experience shame. It's human to feel shame. We need to not to abandon ourselves when we are in shame. Share with a loved one how you feel. Talk to a good friend about how shame drives you in your life. We need to feel and stop silencing our shame in order to heal it. Remember, there are others right now that exactly feel the way you do. The end goal of this is more self-love, self-confidence, and self-acceptance, which will spill into all areas of your life. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe more videos like this. Bye.